Calvin Robinson is a political commentator, broadcaster, policy advisor and clergyman who's a deacon in the Free Church of England. He's a regular contributor to the Daily Telegraph, Daily Mail, Talk Radio and GB News. And he's on the line with us here just now. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, where are you at the moment?
In my study in Queen's Park, London.
Spinning stained glass. How do you make that work?
Yes, indeed.
How does that work? Is that just a screen thing?
Yeah, it's just a display behind me.
Yeah. So what was your journey to becoming a deacon?
Whoa, big question. I suppose a calling is the technical term for it, but just a feeling of nudging in a particular direction. I worked in industry for a long while and felt that I was supposed to be doing something else. And I became a school teacher and realised that that was part of my vocation, but not the whole of it. And eventually I realised that I'm supposed to be a minister for Christ.
You stopped teaching a while ago. Did you ever consider continuing it?
Yeah, no, I love teaching. Education is a great passion of mine, but I left teaching to go to seminary to learn theology so that I could get ordained and become a minister.
How do you think your upbringing itself influenced you becoming a deacon and your politics as well?
I'm not particularly sure that my upbringing influenced my vocation. My family are all either agnostic or nominally Christian. I'm not from a particularly religious family, but I would say it's influenced my politics in that I grew up in the Midlands, in a former miners' town, a market town. A lot of people struggling to get by, and a lot of people stuck on a welfare system. And it showed me that socialism doesn't work and that people need an opportunity to provide and to contribute to society and to be there for their family. And the best way to do that is by giving people a hand up and not a handout. Oops, excuse me.
I got a glimpse of Winston Churchill there.
GB News sting going on there. I don't know how that happened.
Speaking of GB News, how did you get started on there?
I previously had been on Talk Radio with Mark Dolan and Dan Wootton, Patrick Christie's, so a lot of people that were on going over to GB News as well. And Dan called me actually and said, "Can you come down for rehearsals?" This is before GB News even launched. Said he was trying out some new show ideas. And he had this panel of 3 guests, which of course is what he has now. So I went down to help test things out, and I've been on ever since. When the Wets left, so Andrew Neil and the former CEO, when they left, the new CEO said, "Why have we never asked you to present?" I was like, well, I don't know. And then they gave me my own slot.
What do you think about people who, when that channel first launched, even before it launched, some people arguably didn't give it much of a chance and maybe dismissed it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ignorant people out there and a lot of people that have made up their own minds on all kinds of issues. A lot of people have their own biases and prejudices, and there are people that want to see GB News fail. I think that says more about them than it does us, really and truly. We are just trying to offer a different perspective. Most channels out there are in a similar line of thought. Channel 4, Channel 3, Sky, they're all the same thing, really. So I think it's nice to offer a voice to those who don't feel like they have one. And if people have an issue with that, maybe there's a reason behind it.
And are you pleased with how your show and GB News in general is going?
Oh, absolutely. My show had the best ratings on the channel on New Year's Day. The channel itself beats Sky and the BBC combined quite often. We're doing really well. It's good. People are asking for something different, and that's what we're providing. Why
do you think it is that you're claimed to be beating Sky, and by BBC I take it you mean the news channel itself?
Because it is just about asking the questions that people want answered. And I think a lot of mainstream journalists at this point they're embedded with the establishment. They are no different to the establishment, so they're not really holding people to account. We see a lot of manoeuvring. For example, with the coup, when the politicians got rid of Liz Truss and got Rishi Sunak in, the press were all over Liz Truss. They hated her, and they were in favour of Rishi Sunak. We see that all the time. For example, when they wanted to get rid of Boris Johnson, the press were all on the same page pretty much. And I think people see through it all. People are fed up with it.
It's called GB News, but it's not a sort of news channel in the way that BBC News and Sky News is it? It's kind of personality driven. You've got what you would describe as shows. So people are probably more likely to go, I'll tune into that at 8 o'clock.
Well, I mean, they do it too. Beth Rigby has a show on at the same time as me, although mine tends to do better. But Yeah, it is different in that we tend to be more diverse. Most of our shows have far more balance because channels that are more liberal lefty don't necessarily have to have balance because they get away with it. But channels that are more right leaning, that's not possible. It's not possible to have a right leaning channel. So we always have someone from the left, someone from the right on pretty much every issue that we discuss. So more viewpoints are getting aired.
Which do you think is your long-term career plan? Is it being a deacon or a political commentator, broadcasting, or do you kind of want to do both?
Yeah, it's not a career plan. It's not an ambition or a goal. It's I do what I'm called to do. I'm called to parish ministry, and I have a parish church. I'm called to public ministry, and I have a platform which is social media and GB News, where I'm able to speak the truth there as well. I'm trying to do God's work. I'm not trying to get a particular job or it's not an ambition. It's not the way I see the world.
And what are your views on religion and politics mixing?
Well, it's a lot of people say you shouldn't mix politics and religion, but it doesn't really make sense. The statement is a fallacy because the Christian faith is political. It's teaching people how to live their lives. It's showing the difference between good and bad. It's not possible for it to not be political. But I think where people get confused is that, well, for example, I don't think that we should be party political. I don't think that the archbishops or the popes or the church leaders should be coming down on one particular side of the political debate. And I find that happens quite a lot, especially in the Church of England. They're very anti-conservative and very pro-lefty. And we see that when they oppose things like the government's Rwanda policy. It seems very biased and unfair and unjust even. And that's problematic.
I suppose it would be weird if your religion didn't inform your politics to some extent, because there are some issues in which the teachings of your religion would inform your decisions.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to sexuality, marriage, abortion, all of these things, very important things in anyone's life, you should be at least making your decisions and living your life according to your faith.
Well, what's coming up for you? Are there exciting plans in your career and vocation?
I have no idea. Honestly, I have no intention to grow anything. I just do what I feel called to do. I try to listen to where God's calling me to be. I try to walk through the doors that I think God is opening for me. And if that means my platform increases, great, because I can do more work. If it means that I no longer need my platform and it's taken away from me, so be it. I'm not reliant on it. It is what it is.
Where can we keep up to date with you and find out about you?
calvinrobinson.com is my homepage. It's got links to all my social media profiles, but also I've got a Substack, which is calvinrobinson.substack.com. And yeah, I suppose GB News, 3 p.m. on Sundays.
Well, many thanks for talking to us today.
God bless. Thank you very much.